I've done a video on the multiplier effect before, and I looked at what the multiplier effect actually is, but within this video I'm going to look at a specific example of a positive multiplier effect. So when we're looking at a positive multiplier effect, we can consider the diagram, and what it is when there's an initial injection that actually brings about a greater impact on national income. So if we think about, in fact, the example that we're going to use is Google and their injection into King's Cross, London for the new UK headquarters. That initial injection might have brought the shift from AD1 to AD2. However, because of everything that came from that injection and all the knock-on effects from that, it brought about a much greater impact to the economy and actually caused a greater shift from AD2 to AD3. Now, as we can see here with AD2, there's quite a lot of excess capacity. There's a lot of spare capacity available for the economy to grow. So usually when that happens, or usually when that's the case, there's a greater opportunity and a greater chance for a stronger multiplier effect. However, if we had an AD which was closer to the current capacity level, then actually it would be much harder for a stronger multiplier effect, and the multiplier effect might be much smaller because of the restrictions of capacity and the limited capacity that's available. The example that we're going to look is at Google, and it's to do with their London tech headquarters. And as it says here in this article, there's a new £1 billion headquarter in King's Cross in London, which created 3,000 jobs. I'm going to show you a quick video just to kind of give you a bit of background information and as to why it might have brought about a multiplier effect.
I'll tell you this, the most sought after creative people in the world, like it or not, happen to want to live and work next to other creative, sought after people. And London offers lots of opportunities for that.
But there's a third lesson about networking economics here too. Once you've attracted good neighbours, more want to come. It's a virtuous circle. And to see that in action, just look at stop number 3. A new building running alongside the station and railway lines that's going to be the British headquarters for Google.
The building is going to be long as the Shard is high, about 700,000 square feet, and we're just working through the designs now. We want to make it friendly.
And they want to make the building even more flash than these early mock-ups. Google are spending £650 million on new offices here, partly because they like the neighbours.
Now, the fact that you're going here and the university is just over there, just next door, that was part of the reasoning, right?
That was a big factor actually in us coming here. Aside from the size of the floors, having 3,000 students of art and design walking past your door every day means that this is a vibrant and very mixed community. It's the same idea, mixing ideas up and creating new innovation.
But Google are also here because London attracts the kind of people they'd like to employ.
Now, why does it have to be London? Why couldn't you make a building as big as the one you're building in a Birmingham or a Manchester?
I think the attraction of London, of course, is it's by far the biggest city in the UK. It's where most people are, and therefore we've got the biggest talent pool to draw from.
So, in the new King's Cross that's replacing the old, Google's coming to find the right people. The right people come to find the Googles of the world.
So from the video we can see that London's obviously an attractive place for Google, but with Google actually investing in London, it'll bring around even more, I suppose, advantages to the London economy. So if we think about from this, the new campus could create 3,000 new jobs by 2020. That's an important point, and we have to look at it from the point of the multiplier effect. So if we think about the initial injection of £1 billion, that straight away creates 3,000 jobs. Now, that starts to build up, I suppose, a tech community, and it almost creates like a tech hub, because what it does, it attracts more tech firms to come because of how attractive this area now is to that type of skill level. So what you might do is you might, I suppose, attract other companies very, very similar to Google to also potentially invest within that local area, because more and more people realise that this is becoming an area for that type of industry and that type of work. So it could attract further skilled labour to that specific area. But also, with increased jobs taking place and with more people moving to that area, it brings about more potential consumers. And therefore, the local community or the local enterprises, the local businesses start to actually profit from that as well. So if you think about, I've just got a picture there of a local coffee shop. We can see that these small companies actually start to bring in more revenue, and in fact it gives them the opportunity to grow themselves because there's a greater economy now that is taking place because of that initial injection, and that brings about that AD3 shift that I obviously demonstrated earlier from the diagram. And that pretty much ultimately means that the initial injection of 1 billion, the overall outcome of that 1 billion is going to be much greater because of all the added benefits that come from Google moving in a specific area. It's also important to point out that this investment has long-term gains, and it's not only short-term. So in the short term, obviously it does bring about an increase in AD, an increase in national output and economic growth, but in the long term it also could boost capacity. Number one, it could bring about further skilled labour, as I've mentioned before, by attracting new employees, not just from within the country, but from actually elsewhere, and possibly even immigration, but highly skilled immigration. It could also bring about enterprise in terms of new businesses wanting to set up in that area and coming up with new ideas, especially the innovative nature of this tech hub. So we could see an actual increase in long-run aggregate supply as well. So as we can see here, I know this isn't the greatest diagram because I've just quickly added onto it, but we'd see a shift of long-run aggregate supply too, because of obviously the improvements in infrastructure from Google, also maybe further investment from other companies that have been attracted to the area because of Google's investment, because of the increased skilled labour, maybe from abroad. Again, the type of employees that this tech industry would attract would be very beneficial for the economy. Also, maybe new enterprises being set up because of this. It would bring about a long-term gain and not just a short-term gain. Now, with the positive multiplier effect, obviously a lot of it does depend on the capacity, and in the short term, it could bring about, depending on where the economy is currently operating, it could bring about increases in obviously demand pull inflation. But in the long term, that should self-correct itself because of the increased capacity of long-run aggregate supply too.